bottom so that they can check how well it's myceliated.
Are you injecting it into the
base? Oh no, I injected it into the top. This one that's going around. Okay. So this one going around is Cordyceps militaris, and you can see in the bottom, it's got that yellow colour that comes out of the militaris. No, you're not cutting into the top. You're just. Okay. You can either cut the top off completely, and you can either fruit straight out of the bag if you want, or now I'm going to have to empty this. Actually, I'll empty it into there. About 1 mil, 2 mil. Yep. Not a lot. It doesn't need to be a lot. So this is essentially like a monotub. It's a plastic container. This has probably got more holes than you probably would have normally. That's because I use these inside the same kind of fruiting chamber, and it just maintains the humidity. You have the holes in order to be able for carbon dioxide to come out, but also for air to flow in, because mushrooms still need air exchange. They're essentially kind of animals, like they're really closely related to animals, so they need air. So rather than tipping it out, for example, onto your piece of foil and then growing it from the cake, you could then potentially just break it up, tip it all into the bottom of your container here. You would cover these holes with micropore tape. I don't know if any of you use micropore tape, but this is what micropore tape looks like. I'll see if I can find the...
So you're not contaminating anything with that micropore?
No. But the micropore tape helps stop things from getting in, because this is going to be sitting around for a little while.
And same with your cooked rice, you're still going to pour it out?
Yeah. Shit. Excuse my French. Sorry, I can't find the edge. There it is. No. Sorry about this. Hang on. I'll hack it. Okay, almost there. I have. Have you? Good. How's that bag going? Has it gotten around yet?
I'll get it.
No, I don't need it back. You can keep passing it around if people want to look at it. Right, okay, we've got it. Pharmacists. This micropore tape you find in pharmacists. It comes in either white or brown, depending on your fashion choices. And essentially all you need to do is just seal those holes with the micropore tape, like so. I'm not going to do it for every hole, you get the idea, I'm sure.
suppose the tech does let carbon dioxide through it from people.
Yeah, no, the air will move through these fine. Yeah. You can also use Tyvek if you have access to Tyvek. And then just tip it all out into the bottom. But this is kind of where you can then take this to another level too, in terms of, you know, you've got that, but you can do something called bulking it out, which is then taking more substrate. So you could potentially get some straw, for example, cut it up really, really fine and pasteurize it, and then mix it through that rice. You could also use compost. Go to your hardware, get one of those little packets of compost or manure, that manure stuff, and pasteurize that as well, and then mix it through this as like 1-to-1. You mix that PF Tech rice with a bit of straw, a bit of manure, and that will give you a much, much bigger yield of mushrooms. And that's pretty much it. I'm up for questions at this point.
With your pasteurisation, have you ever heard of or used Ricky slime? Because I've actually pasteurised whole bales of Caine, and
That's my main method. My main method at home is using hydrated lime, which is Bricky's lime.
Ricky's lime.
Sorry, we can't.
You use your Ricky's lime. You tip like
You can buy like a massive bag of it for like $10, and then you use about half a cup of the lime to 50 litres of water, and then you soak your substrate in that overnight. The problem with that is that it alkalines the substrate a lot. Do you rinse your substrate?
Yeah, I rinse it.
Yeah, no, you have to. You don't need to for oyster mushrooms, but yeah, but if you're growing interesting mushrooms, it's best to rinse off the lime as much as possible to return the pH to about 7. So,
See, what I did, I was growing the oysters, living in the rainforest up in Guerilla above my house. I did a whole lot of ad. We were selling hats, and they gave us these great big bags with the hat, and we were using them as bin bags. And then I'm looking at them, I go, well, one day I looked at it and went, well, that's perfect for mushrooms. So I used sugar cane mulch, inoculated that, and then I had them hanging all through the rainforest bags with oyster mushrooms growing out in the open all through the
yeah,
They were amazing.
perfect way to grow oysters.
It's great for the oysters.
Yeah. Hessian bags full of straw, just hanging up somewhere. It's just
It's amazing. But growing these, it's awesome. So heat's better in this way, otherwise I've got to bring that pH back up to it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I would just use hot water to pasteurize things usually. Once you feel comfortable using the lime method, it's lovely because it's super easy just to do a big bulk amount. Like most big pots are probably no more than 10 litres. Kitchen pots are 10 litres. You might get some bigger ones, but you can do kind of a fair amount of straw in there, but there's a lot of work involved in heating all that up, taking it out and squeezing the water out. Whereas, the lime method is nice. It's really, you leave it for 12 hours or 24 hours and then just drain it, and the lime just stops everything from growing on it. So it's good. If you're just starting out, I'd probably just use heat, just use hot water to pasteurize. But using the PF Tech, using a little mono tub like this and fruiting it within a fruiting chamber with perlite in the bottom is a perfect way to kind of start off your mycology career as a mushroom cultivator.
Am I right in assuming, just wanting your personal experience, that as long as, you know, we're all doing the legal thing, there's nothing wrong in buying spore prints overseas and posting them in, because there's nothing illegal in that. Am I right or am I wrong?
Australia does have some fairly strict biosecurity laws.
On spore prints?
Even on spore prints. Yeah, you're not really meant to bring, you can bring them in, you can have, but if you get someone to send you a spore print, and it's something legal, get them to label it, and then they will make the decision if they find the spore print. If they find it, read the Latin name, it's got to be the Latin name. If they read that and go, yeah, nah, they will dispose of it and let you know. Psilocybin spores are listed federally as a biosecurity thing. So if they find psilocybe spores, you're in trouble. It's a customs, you're breaking a customs rule and also biosecurity law as well. So yeah, best not to bring them in. I know everybody does. Everybody will, you know, order spores, but I guess on that, do not purchase spore syringes from overseas, because they will get found and they will get destroyed. So yeah, you can try, but we do have very strict biosecurity rules for a reason. But at the end of the day, it's up to you. It's your decision what you choose to do. But we do have so many fantastic fungi here already. So yeah, you know, like our Ganoderma here is they're beautiful species, and they have been shown to have benefits. So there is a packet going around of Cordyceps militaris mycelium. We're now allowed to grow Cordyceps militaris here in Australia. All of us cultivators are like busy trying to work out how the hell to do it. So it's a challenging mushroom, but we're getting there. Do I close it up? Yeah, I keep a lid on that to keep the humidity in there. Yep. You can make holes in it if you want. I find for some species like Ganoderma or some of the interesting things, you don't need to worry about the holes. If you're growing oyster mushrooms, you do need to drill holes into the side of the container all around to allow airflow, because oyster mushrooms need airflow. But for Ganoderma, shiitake, and a few other things, you don't need to worry so much about it, because they're already naturally growing in like near 99% humidity and very little airflow anyway. So.
With your holes, don't forget to tape them up.
Oh yeah, and good point. Yeah, tape them up with the micropore tape, because you will get fungus gnats. And fungus gnats love fungi. They will just fly straight through the holes and start to breed within your mushroom mycelium.
Is it not like breaking down the whole thing when you throw all your cakes into the Guerilla? Is it not breaking down the mycelium?
Sorry,
Like
I'm competing with the. Do we have a roving mic that might?
Well, I can get it, but professionally, if you just speak loudly, then we can hear better. It's probably easier.
is it not like completely destroying what you've done, like the cake and the mycelium, when you throw all the things into the box?
Oh, right. I get what you mean. Like when you're taking it out of the jar and you're breaking it up, you're not destroying the mycelium. No, you're not. No, mycelium has this beautiful behavior of like wanting to rebind with itself. And you know, like with the cardboard method, you know, I'm breaking up the mushroom and putting it into the cardboard. That mycelium then is becoming an individual, and it's kind of like, oh, I need nutrients, and so it returns back to like a vegetative state, and will start to grow mycelium again. So you could potentially, you know, like when you're breaking it up, you can take little bits out and inoculate other media with that mycelium. It's still going to keep growing. It's just constantly looking for nutrients.
So if you got everything prepared, your boxes and stuff, can you just put it in your living room area because it's an enclosed?
Yeah, you can have it in your living room. That's
So how does it work with any temperature changes? Like, is there a range of what is good and not good for the mycelium?
usually between, say, 18 degrees through to, you don't want to get in past 35 degrees. Beyond 35 degrees, the mycelium starts to die.
And below 18 degrees, it's still growing?
It will just slow down, it won't kill it. Yeah. So, you know, like a lot of us, like in Victoria and Tasmania, we're getting those kind of like, you know, 12 degrees, even colder nights. It's still okay to grow. And some fungi even need a cold drop to be able to grow. So, you know, like we talk about subs, for example. Subs need that cold temperature for them to be able to grow. Oyster mushrooms need a cold drop usually to start that fruiting process.
Do you know like a mushroom, like psilocybin containing mushroom, that can handle more cold?
Subs.
The subs like the cold. Yeah, the subs like the cold. Cubensis like warmth
Yeah.
and moisture and humidity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was talking about Cordyceps militaris, I think. Cordyceps militaris. It's where we weren't allowed to grow it, and we're now allowed to grow it. So, yeah.
Is this a therapeutic?
It's a therapeutic mushroom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one of those ones. Psychedelic, therapeutic.
No.
Subs are.
Subs are, but we're talking about cordyceps.
Oh, my apologies. I'm still stuck on the sub.
So how cold can the subs go to a lake?
They are fine with freezing temperatures.
Yeah.
Yeah. It might, you know, the temperature getting down to 0, it slows growth down a lot, but they're very tolerant of it. Yes. There was a question.
About the colonization, do you keep it in the dark?
Yeah, ideally you want to keep it in the dark. Light is a fruiting trigger. Light, changes in temperature, changes in humidity, changes in the level of carbon dioxide, all those things can be fruiting triggers. So when you're myceliating, it is a good practice to keep it in the dark. It's not essential, you don't have to. You know, it's just that they may start to grow mushrooms inside the jar, that's all. You know, like where a little bit of light hits the jar. You might get like little pins of primordia forming, and you'll see them kind of growing, struggling to pop out, but they can't. So.
How do you see when it's contaminated? Is that very obvious?
Yeah, contamination is really obvious. Fortunately, like things like penicillium or trichoderma, their spore color is quite obvious. Like it's a green color, or you know, you might penicillium is kind of more a blue color. So
Can you still save pieces out of the family? Can you still save pieces out of the family when you've got contamination going on? Or everything is gone?
to get rid of it. If it's contaminated, get rid of it.
So the good parts you can't take out.
Yeah, if you see that there's contamination in there, I would just remove that away from what your other jars. Take it outside and empty it in your compost.
But if you've got contamination in your box, not in your jar, but in your box.
I wouldn't worry about that so much. Probably best really to remove the cake. The thing, once you're in here, and I guess that's another point too, is like once the cake is fully myceliated, you've got a window of time where you're not going to get any contamination because the mycelium is really healthy and it's actively fighting against contamination at that point. And that's why you can have like your cake sitting there like that in this container, because it's actively fighting against any potential contamination. But after probably two flushes, you'll probably start to see contamination growing on these anyway. Spores will land, they will germinate, and they will grow.
What do you mean with your flushes? Is it
So, yes, good point. This is this thing about language, you know, like we have this language around growing mushrooms that people get confused about. A flush is, it's a coordinated fruiting of the mushrooms. So the mycelium does things in waves. So it will recognize it's in a fruiting environment. It will start to form primordia as across the whole surface, and all the mushrooms will grow. And the usual habit is to then harvest every single one of those mushrooms. You'll wait till like the majority of them have matured. Then you just remove them all. And then you can let the cake sit for like another week. And then it'll do another wave of primordia. And you'll get like another flush of mushrooms.
so a flush is like a generational mushroom?
Yeah, okay, yep. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, the flush. Okay, but you have to collect all of them, you can't leave the little ones to become.
Usually it's best practice just to remove them all. You know, like not every single baby mushroom is going to mature. At a certain point, the mycelium kind of calculates which mushrooms are going to be the best mushrooms and will then direct its energy into those, and you'll get what are called aborts, which are like little baby mushrooms that then will never develop. So, yeah.
Can you throw any offcuts into your new rice bag?
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't.
Hooray! Line it up! Line it up! Line it up!
So I'm happy to keep answering questions for a little while if people want, or if they want to head off and watch the combis, enjoy. Hang on. Look, I tend to just harvest in one go. It's what I find is the best. You know, like the mycelium is a living organism. It's kind of communicating within itself, and generally my overall observation is like once you start to pick off clusters, like the mycelium kind of just goes, oh well, that's it for this flush. Thank you. Yeah, it's best just to harvest in one go. Look, you know, if you just want to harvest one mushroom at a time and do that, you can.
4 weeks you start having mushrooms, right?
Yep.
But how long can I wait? How far can I wait? After this 4 weeks. Whether from 6 weeks, 7 weeks, I have harvest.
No, you'll need to speak up.
When do you harvest? At what time?
Oh, at what time? You harvest when the mushroom is ready. But that might be... So in this case, look, you're probably going to be harvesting within 4 to 6 weeks. Yeah. It depends on the species of mushroom. So if it's an oyster mushroom, that's probably going to be fruiting within 4 weeks once it's fully myceliated and the cake is sitting there. The Ganoderma might take longer than that. The cordyceps, I'm finding, are ridiculously slow. You know, like I've had my culture sitting there in a fruiting environment now for like 2 months. I'm only just starting to get pins. So, you know, like different mushroom will fruit in different way. Cubensis, it's a pretty quick fruiting mushroom. So within about, 2 to 4 weeks of taking the cake out, you should be getting at least primordia, if not harvesting those mushrooms. In the perlite, you mean? You can use a plate if you want. I just use a little bit of foil. Yeah. No, like that was what it was meant to. It was meant to come out as a whole little cake onto the foil.